From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Paul Peck, along with Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky, and welcome to this special edition of Beat the Champ. We have had a lot of fun over the last 5 years, taking this sport to another level, seeing all the outstanding bowlers in Western New York, and seeing the reaction from the bowling community has been great as well.
Absolutely. There's so many great bowlers in this community that don't do this for a living, but still come out here and perform on the weekends as if they do it for a living. And, and as far as the community goes, I get so much input from everyone, and we have seen so many great matches throughout the years that it's fun to actually look back and see a couple of them from time to time.
All right, so here we go. It's the best of Beat the Champ. So it's Joe Ciffa and Tony Dolan to start things off. At the end of this show, we will crown our 36th Beat the Champ winner, and it all started right here at the Rapids Bowling Center back in January when we crowned our first three: Joe Pullman, Gary Kinyon, and Greg Wojtowicz. And we are on our way to our next three, of which we've already done with the start of our first 2 weeks, which means we've already crowned Chris Labiak and Joe Ciffa. And here's Joe looking for two in a row and off to a very good start. And now Tony Dolan checks in. This is his 8th appearance on Beat the Champ, an overall record of 7 wins and 6 losses. The last time we saw Tony was last month at Malwitz's Island Lanes in Grand Island, when he was part of Mike Zarcone's record-setting 6 wins in a row.
Right.
And it's interesting that Tony is obviously one of the best bowlers in Western New York, and he, as I mentioned, has been on 8 shows already, but always seems to run into the hottest of hot bowlers, and he hasn't been able to put a lot of wins together. So maybe this starts the run for Tony Dolan.
We gotta amp him up a little bit and get him a little more pumped up and a little more intimidating. He's not intimidating enough.
Tony likes to keep it cool, doesn't he? Well, that's not the way he wanted to start, with an open frame as he misses the spare here in the first frame. Tony is 40 years old, from West Seneca, self-employed in the precast concrete business, which quiets down an awful lot for him at this time of the year, so he gets to do more bowling, as he told me. Make sure you like us on the Beat the Champ Facebook page for all of the latest updates on the show, on qualifying. We already know who our next batch of bowlers is going to be for our trip to Batavia in 2 weeks, so you can get the latest on the names there if you go to the Facebook page, and of course follow us on all the other social media avenues as well too. And now to Joe Ciffa, from right here in Niagara Falls, 30 years old, packaging and production assistant, been bowling since he's 5 years old, and it's been very impressive through 2 wins in last week's show.
Well, Joe's made an adjustment here from the last time we saw him. He had switched balls, and I had spoken of how that was a very smart move to line up on the more hooking lane. But now he's using this on the tighter lane, which didn't hit as hard as it had been, which is the result here. It was the weak 10 pin.
Second throw here in the second frame for Joe, and he grabs the spare. Well, it'll be interesting to watch and see if the lane will act the way they did in our first 2 shows, which was 13 was a lot more difficult, a lot faster than 14 was.
He already went Brooklyn on 13 in the first frame, so his ball checked up on him. So I have reason to believe that it's still playing the same. Where Tony, on the other hand, first left-hander that we've seen here at Rapids, so he's playing on a fresh surface.
Third frame for Joe Ciffa. Same thing, that's twice he's left that 10 pin.
It's very common when you go to a weaker bowling ball that it gets you to the pocket better, but kicking out the corner pins tend to be a little more difficult because the ball's not hitting quite as hard.
So how difficult of a strategic decision is that to make then? You're giving up something by trying to get something else.
The hope is that it comes to you, because the lane's going to continue to break down as he bowls, and just the slightest bit of breakdown will make that ball hit harder.
So Joe with spares on frames 2 and 3 after a strike on 1. Tony left open in the first frame, struck in the second, and this is the third frame for Tony. 234 overall average for Tony Dolan. Nice, gentle approach, and the right results. Tony bowls on Mondays at the Broadway Sports Center, on Wednesdays at Spare Time, on Fridays at Abbott, travel on Saturday. Can't imagine he finds something else to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Probably bowling there too.
I'm sure he's subbing somewhere.
I'm sure he is. 2015 Obenauer Masters champion and the 2015 Buffalo Bowler of the Year is Tony Dolan. No exaggeration when you say he is one of the best and most successful bowlers in Western New York. But here's a little bit of an interesting challenge on the baby split for him here in frame number 4.
This is actually quite a makeable spare. You just move 6 boards from your strike target. Move your feet 6 boards, use your strike target, and most of the time you'll be able to pick this up.
No, and once again, Tony misses the pin. So that's 2 open frames in the first 4 for Tony Dolan, and that's a big door opener for Joe Ciffa. Joe has a 214 overall average, bowls in a Sunday morning league at Airport Lanes with a 213 average there. He's had a 12 300 games and a high 837 series. And that 9 pin won't go down.
I think he made a little bit of adjustment off that week 10, and because that ball hooked up just a little bit high. So he's going to want to get in between there.
Now remember, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of signs of it, this is our 3rd week here at Rapids Bowling, and if you're not familiar, we tape all of our shows in one day, so this is the 3rd series of matches that we've already seen bowled on these lanes, so there is going to start to be some breakdown.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Once again, just not, Tony seems a little bit off.
He does.
So, and again, this has been his bugaboo, is getting those spares to come to fall, to hit the pins on the spares.
There we go.
For a second there, that looked like it was going to keep curving to the left. So it's a spare for Tony Dolan in the 7th frame.
So that leaves him still 26 pins back with Joe up on a strike, so he can capitalize on that and make that an even bigger, larger lead.
And there's a nice strike for Tony Dolan in the 8th.
Nothing worse than those corner pins coming up between 2 strikes. No, because he really needed to have a 3-bagger there to get himself back in the match.
Right. So the lead is a little narrower, but here's Joe Ciffa's chance to extend it once again. Joe won a pair of matches in last week's show in dramatic fashion. A 235-234 win over Dana Vojtovic on the very last throw of the match, and then had a little easier time cruising to a 249-177 win over Gerald Grabner. And there's another nice strike for Joe. That's 2 in a row.
We're getting that typical, what we've seen here the whole month is the second half of the game seems to be coming to them in the second half of the game. It's like maybe the transition, they fight through the transition for the first half of the game, and then it settles in.
Is that just a matter of the guys figuring the lanes out a little bit better?
Somewhat, yeah, definitely. Transition is the game, name of the game.
Well, he was looking for that 1 pin to fly over and take the 10 out, and it just flew in front of the 10. So it leaves Joe looking for a 9th frame spare. And he gets it.
So the situation we're in here is if Tony strikes out, which he needs to strike out, he can strike out for a 202. And a 202 would force Joe up to have to mark in the 10th frame.
There's the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. So Tony Dolan needs lots of strikes, and he gets one that he needs in the 9th frame. He needs strikes to put the pressure on Joe Ciffa. If not, it'll be Joe Cifa's 3rd consecutive win. Tenth frame. And he didn't get it. I thought that rolling pin was going to come over, and it just died right before it could take the 7 out.
Well, this was a short stay for Tony.
You've been a lot of short stays for Tony lately, and like I said, that's surprising in how good he is. That for whatever reason, this show just he hasn't been able to figure out a way to run a bunch of wins together. And this actually will drop Tony's overall record to 7 wins and 7 losses. So final score up on the board for Tony Dolan, and a disappointing 180 goes up for Tony, and it's going to be another win for Joe. We'll figure out by how much as he finishes off the 10th frame. Must be that Niagara Falls, being here in the Falls, being here in the hometown, being on the, on the brink of the natural wonder here. It's Joe Ciffa, particularly the hometown cheering section, helping him out as well too.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's brought a bunch of people here with him, making a lot of noise.
We didn't ask Joe how regularly he bowls here at all. As we mentioned, he bowls in some other leagues, bowls at Airport Lanes, but I have to ask Joe how much the advantage he may be having because he's a little more familiar with this house.
And he does, I will admit, he does look very comfortable, and he's made adjustments that seem like he knows where the adjustments, because the adjustments can be very typical to the house. So it almost looks like he bowls here and he's adjusting like he normally would.
So one more for a final score to post up for Joe Ciffa, but it's going to be a 3rd consecutive win. He's undefeated on Beat the Champ, 3 in a row. Andrew Moran will try to end that streak in our next match. And the spare pickup for Joe, and the final score of 207 gives Joe Ciffa a 207 to 180 win over Tony Dolan. We got all the pin action going here. We got the Bowling Stadium water bottle. We got Jim Russo's Bills pin here. So we're properly framed up here with we've got the split going on between you and me, but
no turkeys though.
No turkeys, absolutely. And even though it's the right weekend for that, no turkeys at all, and no turkeys for Joe Ciffa. He didn't get any bowling turkeys, and he was more than that as a bowler. He gets another win. We'll talk to Joe. We'll talk to Tony when we come back to the Rapids Bowling Center. Right after this, you're watching Beat the Champ. It's Joe Ciffa's 3rd consecutive win, a 207 to 180 victory over Tony Dolan. Whenever you come on the show, which is all the time, you always seem to run into the hottest guy in town.
Joe's bowling good right now. Nice clean game, making his spares. I was definitely off, but oh well, it happens. And
yeah, I know.
You know what? We'll try again next time.
And there's a pretty good chance that we will see you next time, because we always see you every week, and we like seeing you, Tony. But the visits have been shorter than I know that you would like them to be. Yeah. Meanwhile, Sue, this guy has got the home lane advantage rolling.
Business as usual. Are you feeling a little less nervous out here now?
A little bit. Lane's just starting to break down. Just trying to make good shots.
I see you went back to the ball that you were using on 13. You're using on 14 now as well?
Yes, I am.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so Joe's going to try to make it 4 wins in a row. Next up for him, Andrew Moran. That's our next match. Stick around. Beat the Champ from the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls returns right after this. Second match of the day. There's our returning champion, Joe Ciffa. His challenge will come from Andy Moran. We'll see Andy in a moment. But here's Joe Ciffa looking for 4 in a row. And, well, he was pretty calm, pretty quiet with you in the post-match interview there, Sue. He's locked in right now.
He's
focused.
Yeah.
1 or 2 word answers, don't distract me. But as you pointed out, he made a very nice adjustment on which balls to use, and that was really big for him in the win over Tony Dolan. And a good start again for Joe Ciffa. And now we get our first look at Andy Moran from Grand Island, 32 years old, account manager for a wholesaler, been bowling for 20 years. This is the 3rd time we've seen Andy in about the last 5 weeks, because we saw him make his Beat the Champ debut at Malwitz's Island Lanes on Grand Island, and then we saw him after that in the Grand Island championship, so to speak. So he's already used to being on TV a little bit, and with all that chatter of Grand Island, what better to a person to bring on and help us through this match but our buddy Mike Malwitz from Malwitz's Island Lanes in Grand Island. And Mike, you know Andy as well as anybody, so we thought it's a good chance for you to give us a little perspective on this match.
No, thanks for having me on. Andy, like I said in the last few weeks, Andy's really been bowling better. He's stepped up his game up huge. And I'm excited to see what happens today, because Joe also bowls at Island Lanes, and this should be a good match.
Are you surprised at all by the way Joe is bowling? I mean, he's on his way to a chance to win 4 in a row here now.
I'm not surprised at all. I've watched Joe bowl as a kid, when he was younger, and he's bowling way better. He's stepped up his game huge. He's got a great solid game, and he throws the ball good. As Sue said earlier, he's got great rotation, so I look forward to see what this match can bring.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. We're early on in this one, and Andy Moran has moved over to the left lane 13 and leaves a couple of pins on his second throw. Didn't have a whole lot of speed on that last throw, Sue.
No, and we've seen through the course of our time here that 13 has really broken down quite a bit, so Andy's got his work cut out for him adjusting on that lane. Because if he doesn't have enough ball speed on it, it's going to roll out.
That is the tough thing. Even in the tournaments that I bowl in on the weekends and stuff, when you're constantly bowling, and you switch pairs, you don't know what's going on the pair. But Joe here has bowled a few games on this, and he knows what's going on.
He knows how they've broken down.
So that might be a little advantage to Joe.
You can really see how much when bowlers get on a run here and they're already into their 2nd, 3rd, 4th match in a row, they really do start to understand the conditions a little better, and it's a big advantage for somebody who's all of a sudden only thrown 2 frames here.
The key part is Andy did cover his first 2 frames, so spare, that's huge. So he's safe going into the 3rd frame, and that's what makes it close. Spares just keep you in the game all the time.
Keeps while you're figuring it out, just like staying out of trouble.
Right.
Speaking of which, here's Joe's chance for a 2nd frame spare. He's got it. So it's strike spare for Joe Ciffa on the first 2, and he'll move over for lane number 3. So what have you been up to these days as we head towards the holiday season here? What are you keeping busy with yourself?
Well, bowling.
I think I knew that might be the answer.
Lots of bowling. But no, just, keeping busy with the bowling center and everything.
Busy time of year now.
Yeah.
We're beyond the summer now. Even though the weather was nicer later than it normally is, we are deeply into the bowling season, aren't we?
Yeah, and we do a lot of holiday parties and so on. So, Christmas time is really when the bowling season ramps up as far as open bowling, holiday parties, birthday parties, just when the weather gets bad, people want to be indoors.
Kids are on vacation.
That's what bowling's all about. Just have fun, go bowling.
So now back to Andy Moran as he bowls in the 3rd frame here. And he's got his mom and dad looking on here, cheering him on at Rapids Lanes. 227 average for Andy. Bowls on Monday nights with Mike and the boys over at Malwitz's Island Lanes, where he averages that 227 number. 10 career 300 games, 4 career 800 series with a high of 836 as you get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
That shot there was much better. Looks like he loosened up quite a bit.
Well, not only figuring out the lanes, but just to get loose and throw the ball better. And that did not look like a good shot.
Yeah, no, that's a tough split for Andy to have to figure out here as the 4 pins are left.
I think he kind of fell off it a little bit. Just pinched it, thumbed it.
Yeah, you can't do that in this lane. This lane, you have to be. This is the tougher of the 2 lanes. You got to keep your ball speed up, and you got to be very accurate.
Now Andy just went at that spare two-handed.
I noticed that.
I've tried to convince Andy to bowl two-handed full time for a long time now. Probably 8 years, and he still hasn't done it, but I think he might be a great two-handed bowler if he ever switched over full time.
Why? Explain why you think he'd be good at that.
It's a matter of the amount of revolutions you can get on the bowling ball, and that's not always a good thing, but two-handed bowlers generally get better pin action, better carry, and they can open the lane up huge, and Andy does throw the ball very well two-handed. He keeps good speed. He's got great revs. It's awesome. So I'm gonna kind of have to fight with Andy about this afterwards.
Actually, he warmed up two-handed. He struck almost every shot.
Did he really?
He did.
Nice knockdown of the clothesline there for Joe Ciffa in the 4th frame to pull off yet another spare. So 2 strikes and 2 spares for Joe through the first 4.
I watched Andy warm up, and he threw a couple shots two-handed, and I told him to bowl like that on the show. So let's see if he crosses over.
Last week we had our first two-hander versus two-hander match on this show with Labiak and Vojtovic, and that was a lot of fun to watch. Certainly much different than we normally are used to seeing.
Jason Belmonte is probably the best tour player. Nobody can argue that in the last few years, 3, 4, 5 years, and he's a two-hander. So there's something to be said about if you can execute that correctly and consistently, it'll work.
How hard is it if all of a sudden tomorrow you decided I'm going to go two-hander? How long would it take you to get to the same level that you're at as a regular bowler? You or anybody else, I guess.
Well, I personally can't do it. I've tried it before. I can't figure it out. My ball speed's slow, compared to my rev rate. Too many revs for my ball speed. That's why I'm trying to convince Andy to do it, because he can still get the speed, get it down the lane, and control that rev rate.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Eighth frame for Andy Moran.
That was a good shot, too.
That was a really good shot.
Couldn't get the 10 pin to go.
Sometimes, you can throw it good and leave that 10 pin. That's a little tough to swallow, but it's still a close match.
So Andy pulls out the spare ball, and he'll try to grab that 10 pin and get himself a spare. And he missed it. Tough break for Andy Moran, just when it looked like things were starting to go his way. And again, that always leaves an opportunity for your opponent to jump on an open frame like that. And let's see what Joe Ciffa does with it.
Same shot 3 times in a row.
Yeah, that's 3 frames in a row on the same lane. So you said it earlier, lane 14 starting to catch up to 13. And just like that, you're looking at 3 identical shots.
That spot that he's getting to is just gone. He's got to get inside of that.
The spot that he's getting to that allows that ball to make that slightly less archy turn at the end is what you're talking about.
Yeah, that part of the lane the oil has worn away and leaving dry boards, which is going to make your ball hook. So instead of it getting to his break point, it's actually starting to hook before his break point.
Right.
And no matter what he does, if he hits that spot, it's going to do the same thing as we've seen it do the same thing 3 times in a row.
Right, which is why he's leaving pins on the right-hand side. So now Joe moves over to lane 13 here to begin the 9th frame. It's still tight. About a 10-pin advantage for Joe Ciffa right now. Big strike.
That's a big shot. Great shot by Joe there.
And now Andy will have to play catch-up here in the ninth frame. 2015 and 2016 Tonawanda doubles champion with his partner Tim Marble, another one of your Malwitz's Island Lane guys. All events champion 2016 at the Tonawanda City Tournament. Just not enough speed on that one to knock all the pins down, which is why you're left with the split.
Yeah, Andy kind of ran into the same thing Joe did there. You know, he did pull it by a little bit, but overall, you know, normally that would be a okay shot. Oh, here he goes with the two-handed thing.
Wow, he does throw a good two-handed.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
So that is back-to-back open frames.
Andy, throw a two-handed on the shot.
Back-to-back open frames.
Let's see if we can make a new bowler out of this guy right now.
Well, see, this could be the moment, and we'll have it recorded on television, the moment in time when Andy Moran's game of
really hope
bowling
he strikes
changes.
Look at this, nice shot. Look at the power.
Wow.
Almost got that to go.
That was pretty good. That's great pin action, and that's the thing with
Wow.
two-handed bowling. Doesn't he throw it well, Sue?
Yeah, and this is perfect. I mean, it's actually a nice comparison because people can see the difference between throwing it with your fingers and your thumb in the ball and throwing it two-handed. I mean, there's many more revolutions throwing it the other way.
Just much more pin action. He almost threw the messenger at the 10-pin. Pretty solid. I would make a good case for Andy Moran going two-handed.
Well, that'll be very interesting to see whether you can convince him and whether we'll get him back on this show maybe as a two-handed bowler at one point. So basically what you're saying is when you can get that down, the more revolution and speed on the ball creates more action from the pins bouncing around.
Generally, yeah. If you look at the PBA guys, the pro bowlers, their revs and their speed is higher than most. And that's really what creates great pin action and room on the lane. Just open the lane up wide open, and that's something I struggle with sometimes. You know, I tend to be a lower rev, lower speed guy, and when guys can really open the lane up, I struggle to compete. But I think that's the way to go.
Well, the way to go right now is the same way that Joe Ciffa's got it going because he's on his way to his fourth consecutive victory. We have the 158 on the board already from Andy Moran, and Joe is beyond that, so it's going to be 4 in a row for Joe, our Niagara Falls native, with the 180 up on the board. So a 180 to 158 win for Joe Ciffa, 4 in a row, and boy, he's got a chance at the sweep here in his hometown and another trophy and another Firth Jewelers gift certificate.
Well, we're going to watch Joe make another change yet, same as he did before, because the lanes have broken down so much.
I think it's a good
He's going to
move.
try another ball now to see if he can. That in this case, he's going to
So
try
he shoots
something
a
different.
197, but this might be a tough match for
Right.
Joe next match.
Well, it's a 197 officially to 158 win for Joe Ciffa, 4 in a row. Next match that Mike is referring to against Joe Pullman, who has already won a Beat the Champ trophy here at Rapids Bowling Center. So it should be a good one. We'll talk to Andy. We'll talk to Joe when we come back. It's Beat the Champ in Niagara Falls. We're back right after this. $197 to $158. Our final score is Joe Ciffa wins his 4th in a row, this time knocking off Andy Moran. So, is Malwitz going to convince you to go to the two-hander route and get you back on the show as a two-hander?
After that game, I might have to. I mean, that was embarrassing.
You know, this is the 3rd time on the show, so we can't use the nerves as an example. Just you got to a little bit of a rut there. The lanes are getting tough, I know, too.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse. I mean, you should be able to adjust to it. But I just didn't bowl too great. Joe pulled it together and took it.
Yeah, he sure did. And so he's starting to intimidate his opponents here with the way he's bowling.
Yeah, you're now a veteran on this show, so gone is the first jitters that you had. What are you seeing out there happening on the lanes?
Heads are pretty fried. I'm just trying to get the ball as right as I possibly can, and hopefully I get some good carry.
Okay, good luck.
Well, the adjustments have worked for Joe. He is red hot. He's won 4 in a row. Can he win a second consecutive weekly trophy? He needs one more win to do that. When we come back, it's Joe Ciffa and Joe Pullman, our final match of the day at the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls. Stick around. Beat the Champ is back right after this.
So Joe Ciffa's winning streak is on the line. His opponent is Joe Pullman. We'll talk about Joe in just a moment, but it's Joe Ciffa that will start things off. We got to get our Joes straight here. We'll have to be very specific about this. Joe Ciffa and Joe Pullman in our final match of the day from here at the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls. We're going to get Mike Malwitz to join us here for just a moment to preview next week's show, but let's see how Joe starts things off. He has started with a strike in each of his 2 matches here so far today. And that streak will come to an end as the 10-pin holds up, so Joe will have to begin with a spare attempt.
Still, that was a great adjustment. He switched balls, and it went further down the lane for him and still hit up.
I look forward to watching that shot on lane 14 because that was I think, like you said, that was a great adjustment, and I want to see that ball roll on lane 14 because I think it'll work out.
Right.
So here's Joe trying to grab this first frame spare, and he gets it. And now we get our first look at Joe Pullman, 46 years old, from East Amherst, an elementary school teacher in Williamsville. And if you were with us 2 weeks ago, you saw his brother, Jeff. So we've had double Pullman brothers here at the Rapids Bowling Center, and Jeff was unable to come up with a victory. So now it's Joe's turn to try to wrap this up and grab the trophy, something he has already done here. Our very first week, our very first show, Sue, when we got Beat the Champ's return started in January, the first trophy you handed out was to Joe Pullman way back in January.
Well, I'm guessing he wants me to repeat that action.
I'm sure he would love you to repeat that action.
It was a solid first shot.
And he skirts the edge of the lane and grabs the spare. So Mike Malwitz is back with us as he was in our last match. And Mike, we want you to talk a little bit about next week's show. We're going to always have some fun with the 4th show in every month of our month-long stop. So we're going to do a little Pro Shop Challenge. Tell us all about it.
Well, you got to have fun. First of all, you got to have fun at bowling, and that's what it's all about. That's what I try to tell the kids all the time. Bowling is about fun. So we're trying to make this 4th show really fun for everybody. Everybody to bowl in, everybody to watch. And we're doing the Pro Shop Challenge again. And I hope to have a rematch between myself and Eric Johns because, kind of embarrassed him a little bit the last time when we were here at Rapids. So we'll see what happens. We got some great competitors, Sue Jeziorski, Eric Johns, Josh Nowak, and I can't wait to do it. It's gonna be a great time.
Right, and this is the ultimate in bragging rights for you guys, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you gotta poke fun. We're all friends, at the end of the day. But while we're on the lanes, it's gonna be a good match, and you should tune in next week. It's gonna be great.
So is he the favorite then? Are you putting?
Is it okay if I cheer for the girl?
It's okay if you cheer for the girl. Never mind that you have personal reasons.
Well, be it she's my teammate and all.
Well, there you go. So we'll allow that to happen. But what do you give? What kind of odds you give? What kind of chances you give Malwitz here and grabbing this championship?
Well, I'd like to see it come down to. Well, all of them are good people, and we're here to support the pro shops and here to talk about bowling balls and what they do and making sure people are fed and drilled properly just for their own well-being. But I wouldn't mind seeing Susie and Mike take each other on in the last match.
All right. That would be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't mind that at all. I'll make it fun. We'll make it happen.
I know you will. So
remember, this is not a full contact sport.
Isn't everything a full contact sport for him?
Eric did already threaten to take me out before I even threw a ball, so.
Well, Janelle's always ducking when you're around, so.
Yeah, she's always, she will be a little bit concerned when you're out there.
Janelle better watch out. I already warned her.
You're going to get yourself in trouble one of these days. That's what I'm
One of
worried
these
about.
days.
Well, more trouble than you normally would. So, all right, if you need to go and get yourself ready, go ahead and shoot out of here. Sue and I can handle this last match, but
Yeah.
we look forward to seeing you next week on the Pro Shop Challenge.
All right, sounds good. I can't wait to watch the rest of this match. It's already close, and it looks exciting.
All right, Mike Malwitz from Malwitz's Island Lanes, our buddy that always checks in with us. He's always here every week. He's like the furniture around Western New York's bowling alleys.
I think he's trying to steal my job, but he can't have
Well,
it.
you know, that may very well be true. So, but in the meantime, we've got a good match, as Mike said, going on here. Third frame now for Joe Pullman after spares in the first two. I'll tell you a little more about Joe in just a moment. Nice strike, third frame for Joe. This is his fourth show on Beat the Champ. 3 wins and 2 losses, and as I mentioned, he won the very first weekly trophy here at the Rapids Bowling Center all the way back in January. Joe, as I mentioned, an elementary school teacher, also the girls varsity bowling coach at Clarence High School, and they were division champs last year, and Joe says we have a really strong team coming back again this year, so lots of excitement for Joe on the coaching end of things.
Well, Joe is very good fundamentally. I mean, he's got an actual fundamentally perfect game. His push away is in the right spot. His release is in the right spot. His footwork is very smooth. His timing is very smooth. So he'd be actually an excellent coach because he knows how to teach the fundamentals to people.
And there you get another good look at Joe Ciffa, 30 years old, from right here in Niagara Falls, and he is on an outstanding run of 4 wins in a row. And if he can get the 5th, he'll get a second consecutive Beat the Champ trophy. Third frame strike for Joe Ciffa.
Good ball change for Joe. He moved in, he moved his feet in, he moved his eyes to the right, and he took a ball that goes a little longer.
Well, we mentioned that the 2 longest winning streaks on Beat the Champ belong to Mike Zarcone and Matt White, who each won 6 in a row. Nobody has won more than that, and if Joe wins this match, that will be 5 in a row, and he'll get to come back to our next month's stop in Batavia with a chance to break that record. And right now, he looks like he's got these lanes figured out after struggling a little bit in the last match.
Joe seems like he's very much enjoying this experience. He was a little nervous to start, but he's really fallen right into place here.
And he seems to have taken to the fact that he's got a lot of his buddies and his family from right here in Niagara Falls cheering him on. Joe Pullman bowls Monday nights at Clarence, Wednesdays at Transit, Saturdays in the Travel League. And when he bowls on Wednesdays, bowls with his mom, his brother, and his daughter. So 3 generations of Pullmans go at it in bowling on Wednesday nights. That's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
And just couldn't get that 7-pin to fall to make it 5.
He's relying on that mixer shot, which normally the carry percentage for that shot's excellent. Unfortunately, he left the 7-pin.
There's the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. And it's a spare for Joe Pullman in the 7th frame. And he will move over to tricky lane number 13. And Joe is ready, finds his footing, and gets set for a big throw in the 8th frame. Got it. Big strike. He needed that one. Keep putting the pressure on Joe Ciffa.
Yeah, the little bit of a lead that he had went away with that spare that he left, but it's good to follow it up with another strike. So now it's up to Joe Ciffa to keep this strikes going and stay ahead.
8th frame for Joe Ciffa, working on 5 strikes in a row. Make it 6. Quiet confidence from Joe Ciffa. You can just see it. He doesn't let on too much, but he's got that look in his eyes, and the results are coming.
Yeah, there's an intensity there.
That's the right word. Of course, we want to make sure and wish everybody, hope they had a great Thanksgiving a couple days ago and are enjoying their Thanksgiving weekend. And certainly we're into the holiday season, and we can wish everybody an early happy holidays. It might be a little happier for Joe Ciffa because he might be able to get a 5th consecutive win.
And congratulations to everyone being inducted tonight in the Bowling Hall of Fame.
That's right. Greater Buffalo USBC Hall of Fame induction ceremony tonight. Good list of names that are going into the hall, and I know you and I know a lot of them. We've seen a lot of them on the show. Pat Brick, Mike Sarcone have been here, along with Greg Merkel and Michelle Sterner and Jeanette Piazinski. And Joe Pullman will look to get the 9th frame spare. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun later on tonight over at Samuel's Grand Manor, the Greater Buffalo USBC Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
That's right. You and I will have a little work to do before we can relax and enjoy our evening.
That's right. That's not work, though. That's hanging out with bowlers, celebrating. I'm happy for everybody there. Greg Merkel's been a friend of mine for a long time. Greg's a great guy, really. As the president of the Greater Buffalo USBC, really does a great job to support bowlers and bowling in our community. And as you can see by watching this show, this is a community that loves its bowling. Just didn't get the carry of the pin to take out that 10 pin, and that might be a pretty critical moment there, Sue.
Yeah, but it's not that he threw it bad and he didn't miss the pocket, but this is where the power game and Joe Ciffa's game, he has a high rev rate and he creates a lot of pin action and, was able to carry those corner pins where Joe Pullman struggled a little bit with the corner pins.
So yeah, as we've seen on this run by Joe Ciffa, the power and the strength can help you win matches.
Yep, that same conversation as the two-hander. They just create more rev rates, and that's what creates all that pin action.
Well, Joe did what he needed to do, which is a strike on his final throw to post up a solid score for Joe Pullman. It goes on the board for Joe. And a nice job by him to keep the pressure on Joe Ciffa. 227. Will it be enough?
No, Joe Ciffa has already got that beat.
So Joe Ciffa, an amazing run for the Niagara Falls native, will continue, and a big strike there in the 10th frame. That is 8 in a row for Joe Ciffa. 2 back-to-back trophy wins for Joe Ciffa and a 5-match winning streak. It's only the 3rd time that has happened on this show, and I don't know that any of us thought that Joe Ciffa was going to be the guy that could do that. We didn't know much about him.
No, we hadn't met him yet, but now he's got to wait for 2 weeks to come back again and drive to Batavia.
Right. He's not going to have the home field advantage anymore.
No.
Well, he better make sure that his cheering section hops in the car with him and drives out to Batavia.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him that one.
But it's going to be a 5th consecutive win for Joe Ciffa as he just gets set to throw his last ball here and finish off an impressive run, an impressive victory. And he gets it. And Joe Ciffa is on the board with a 259, another impressive victory, 259 to 227. Boy, what a run for Joe Ciffa. We'll see if we can't get him to smile a little bit and tell us exactly why it's happening and how it's happening. We'll talk to the Joes, wrap this match up, get you ready for next week when we return. It's Beat the Champ in Niagara Falls at the Rapids Bowling Center. We're back right after this. the amazing run of Joe Ciffa continuing with a 259 to 227 victory over Joe Pullman. We thought maybe a little bit of that Pullman magic here at the Rapids Bowling Center could continue, huh?
I was hoping so, sure, but just couldn't carry today. It was just not my day, unfortunately. So
yeah, and talk about running into a guy on a roll right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't keep up. So good bowling to him.
Sue?
A star is born at Rapids Bowling Center.
Yes, ma'am.
Will you be bringing your cheering section down to Batavia with you?
Oh, the ones that can make it, hopefully. I'll trim them in all my car if I have to.
Well, they seem like they were a lot of help.
They were.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, it's 5 in a row now for Joe Ciffa. He has one off the Beat the Champ record. He'll have a chance to tie that and break that in 2 weeks when we move everybody to Batavia. You're going to lose your home bowling advantage, but it sounds to me like he's going to be able to keep it up. So Sue and I will wrap up this week's edition of Beat the Champ when we return to Niagara Falls right after this. Well, Sue, when we started this show, we knew Joe Ciffa was hot coming in after 2 wins in a row, but here he is, impressively sweeps his way through the rest of the week. The win streak is up to 5. What is it that a guy that maybe not a lot of people knew very much about, what is it that he's doing so well?
Well, like I said, a star was born, and he had to make some serious adjustments to get through all the matches he had to get through. He had various competition, and his smart moves made him a star really this weekend at Rapids.
Yeah, he's bowling with power, he's bowling with smarts. That's the right combination that you need. So Joe's going to take the week off. He'll try to match the longest winning streak in Beat the Champ history in Batavia in 2 weeks. Next week for us, the always fun Beat the Champ Pro Shop Challenge. We'll have a lot of fun with that next week. I know we got some people that you know pretty well in that one.
Yeah, we've got some solid bowlers that are going to have a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of joking around, goofing around, kind of like we saw last month. So it shows you how much fun bowlers have together.
Yeah, well, make sure you join us for all the fun. That'll be on next week's edition of Beat the Champ. For everybody here at WBBZ and the folks at the Rapids Bowling Center, we'll see you next week on Beat the Champ.